CBS News has learned that special counsel Robert Mueller is now using a federal grand jury. The scope of his investigation includes any collusion between Russia and President Trump's campaign and whether the president himself has engaged in obstruction of justice. Jeff Pegues and Jan Crawford are in Washington. Jan, let me begin with you. Can you explain, first of all, what impaneling a grand jury means for our viewers? How will it come to play in the investigations?
Well, I mean, grand juries are really standard tools that federal prosecutors use day in and day out across the country when they're conducting investigations. It's how a federal prosecutor would get a subpoena and compel production of documents or testimony. So this is very standard. A grand jury would kind of be this vehicle that a prosecutor would use to investigate the case. And as special counsel, Mueller had that authority to use a grand jury. It was widely assumed that he would, just like special counsels and special prosecutors have done in the past.
Well, Jan, isn't there already a grand jury looking into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn?
Yes, and it's unclear, we believe, it's unclear what impact and how those two grand juries would kind of interplay. I mean, there's some speculation that a different grand jury here in Washington would hear some of the evidence and start doing this investigation in terms of the Russia probe, generally because that's where Mueller's office is. So it would be more convenient for him to go to that grand jury than, say, one that was already convened in the Eastern District of Virginia. Also, grand juries do expire. So this is something that potentially could be starting afresh to start this investigation and get the ball rolling.
Jeff, let me turn to you. It's also being reported that subpoenas have been issued in connection with the June 2016 meeting between Donald Trump Jr., White House advisor Jared Kushner, and the Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. Is there a sense of what Mueller may be looking for there?
Well, even though Donald Trump Jr. released emails, for investigators, that's not enough. They want to know what happened before in terms of communication to set up that meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. They want a complete picture, and to do that, they want to get phone records, email records from all of the people involved, or at least as many of them as they can possibly get, and that's where subpoenas might come into play, issued by or with the help of a grand jury. And so they want a full picture of what happened in that meeting. And it's not just that. There are other contacts that they will and are looking at pertinent to this investigation.
Jan, help us understand the legal landscape here. Can a sitting president be indicted?
Well, I mean, it's widely understood that the answer to that question is no. It's never happened. Most people don't think that Robert Mueller is going to be the first one to kind of go out on a trip of his own and indict a sitting president. And there are reasons for that, and it's kind of grounded in the Constitution or separation of powers. I mean, you can't have a sitting president under threat of indictment while he's in the executive branch. So it hasn't happened. It's widely assumed, and legal scholars believe that it's probably not lawful, and it's highly unlikely that Robert Mueller would be the first to try.
And finally, Jeff, don't grand juries typically take months to conclude? Does that give us any kind of indication of when these investigations will be complete?
Well, we've been reporting for some time that the investigators believe that this is the type of investigation that's going to drag on for some time. So even though there seems to have been a flurry of activity today, there is a lot yet to come. This is just one more step in this lengthy investigation, but it's an important step, as we now know. So there is still a lot for these investigators to do as they try to put together the pieces of this puzzle, and there's so many moving pieces essentially in this puzzle that it's going to take time before they really nail down exactly what happened and whether a crime was committed.
All right, Jeff Pegues and Jan Crawford for us. Thank you both.